We're learning new information about a letter sent to parents last night outlining concerning behavior between a student and former teacher at a Catholic school in Holyoke. Western Mass News reporter Matt Satilli now joins us live in studio with more. Matt?
Chris, Western Mass News obtained a copy of the letter sent out by Mary Fedora, the principal at Mater Dolorosa School, a K-8 Catholic school in Holyoke. It states that on Friday, a concern was raised about a student at the K-8 school and a former teacher. When we reached out to the Diocese of Springfield this afternoon, we received a statement and learned that this former teacher was terminated from both St. Mary's Academy in Longmeadow and Mater Dolorosa School in Holyoke in May of 2022. After a complaint was filed with the Department of Children and Families. The principal's letter also mentions that the Mater Dolorosa School Board met last night to hear from other concerned parents, and following that meeting, officials were, quote, deeply affected by the things brought to their attention. School officials say the former teacher worked as a Spanish teacher at Mater Dolorosa from August 2021 to May 2022 and taught students in kindergarten through 8th grade. Now, counselors from the Springfield Diocese Office of Safe Environment and Victim Assistance will be available this week for students and parents. That statement from the diocese reads in part, quote, in addition, the Diocese of Springfield notified the Hampden District Attorney's Office. It is the policy of the Diocese of Springfield to immediately notify the appropriate authorities in law enforcement once an allegation is brought forward. And this policy was followed. Protecting all children in the care of those who work in Catholic schools or who work or volunteer in the diocese remains and must always remain the top priority. We'll continue to follow new developments. For now, reporting live in studio, Matt Satilli, Western Mass News.